Tucker Carlson interviewed Vladimir Putin on X, and at the time of this video has over 148 million views. Now, for the most part, I don't think there was anything completely unexpected here in terms of the interview. Putin comes off as a sophisticated and articulate mafia thug. But unfortunately for legacy media, he does not come off as a 1940s era socialist monster of either the national or the international variety. Over the past 2 years, I've heard a lot of speculation about Putin's physical and mental health. This marathon interview indicates no such difficulties. He looks remarkably fit for a 71-year-old. There are no signs of tremors. Although a little difficult to pick up due to the translator, he's showing no sign of verbal impairment, and he spoke at great length on many academic and political issues. The first half hour is dominated by Putin giving a history lesson. Now, you'll find much of the same history in my videos on Ukraine. The events described in his history are, for the most part, factual. Some of his interpretations are nationalistic justifications. The Russians and Ukrainians started out pretty much the same people. True. So what? Due to various Slavic nations conquering the area over time, the area west of the Dnieper River became kind of a Slavic melting pot. And everything east of the Dnieper River, specifically the regions of Ukraine that Russia claims has been theirs, is for the most part Russian and has been for quite some time. Now, American politicians and legacy media journalists are too ignorant or feign ignorance to understand the significance of what he's trying to do here. All nation states of the old world go to war not for some novel reason, but for long recorded historical reasons, either due to past grievances or some new exigent circumstance related to history. Only the grand doofuses of the neoliberal order hear this and think this is somehow new or barbarous. They should get used to it because as the world most likely shifts to a multinational order, this will be the way of things going forward. A real good lesson here is essentially what the founding fathers tried to warn us about the old world. We are far too naive and uneducated people to be able to read these historical tea leaves and predict outcomes. When Vlad says, "Here are our reasons, and here are copies of the documents from the archives to prove it," it's not artifice, it's old school. Your average Russian is probably not as articulate, but most of them would have been drilled on the basic history of this that's being presented here by Putin. Nationalistic history is a core component of a nationalistic country. In part of Putin's history lesson, he speaks of Czechoslovakia and other countries that aren't natural, that are held together by outside force. To illustrate this, he tells an anecdote of traveling through the Ukraine in the 80s. He spoke of traveling to the southwest of Ukraine and seeing signs, one in Russian and another in a language he didn't know. He stopped in a small village and there were men wearing strange conical hats and costumes. He asked a local person if the men were performers of some kind. The local said, no, they're Hungarian. They always look like that. Now, no idea if the story is true or if it's in any way indicative of cultural assimilations of Ukraine, or even if it's even representative of Ukraine being cobbled together. I'll explain in a second. So Carlson picked up on the fact that Putin had noted that Poland had helped 1930s socialist Germany pick apart Czechoslovakia. Tucker asked Putin if he would invite Viktor Orban, the Hungarian prime minister, to discuss taking back the Hungarian portions of Ukraine. Now, unfortunately, the translator seems to have botched the question because Putin took the question as an accusation that he may be plotting with Orban to dismantle Ukraine, which he denied. If he'd answered Tucker's question, it might have been pretty illustrative. Putin claimed that the Soviet Union, when it came apart, assumed that whatever happened going forward, Ukraine would always be a friendly neighbor that would be deeply involved with Russia's economic network. He reiterated claims that can be found from multiple sources, including people in the West, about Russia wanting to be part of the Western family of nations, and how they were constantly rebuffed. And infamously, of course, how NATO was not supposed to expand. Putin stated that their goal is to protect and promote the Russian states east of the Dnieper River, uh, otherwise known as the Donbass, the Crimea, and the Donbass Crimea corridor. He appeared to deny goals beyond eastern Ukraine. Putin claimed that the Russian army pulled back from its advance on Kiev because as they were negotiating the settlement of hostilities, those acting as facilitators said, "You can't expect Ukraine to negotiate with Kiev surrounded. It's like demanding someone to parley in a rational manner with a gun pointed at their head." So Putin claims that the pullback from Kiev was a good faith move. I'm not sure I buy that explanation, but considering how the war has played out, especially with the northeast border region, it's not an outrageous claim. It's one that needs a lot more proof, though. A very interesting segment occurred when he spoke of W. Bush. He noted that our press made him out to be this dumb country boy, but that in fact Bush was reasonably intelligent. Putin mentioned how he was negotiating with Bush when the country of Georgia and Russia began having problems. Putin told Bush that the CIA was arming, training, and working up the Georgians. Bush didn't believe it, so Putin showed him the evidence, and Bush said he'd put a stop to it. When the preparations continued, he called Bush, and Bush said there was nothing he could do about it. Now, that's a story that's almost too much on the nose for how many Americans view their establishment. Clearly, the story could be a total fabrication, or if it's true on the surface, Bush could have been fibbing about not knowing the CIA was involved, etc. However, it's a story that can be neither rejected or accepted at its face value. I don't think we learned much except that our establishment wants to continue to demonstrate fragility. They acted like one interview could crash the entire new neoliberal order. So, did you watch the interview? Comment below. Did you have any thoughts on it? If you do comment, please do mention if you watched the interview or not. It'd be kind of interesting to know if you're basing your ideas or comments off of what you've seen or what you heard other people said they saw. Also, feel free to comment on, in general, what you think the value of interviews like this is. Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithms brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, please consider subscribing. And if you know someone who might find this interesting, please share it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.